Welcome to Inspiration and Transformation from the Banks of the Ganga with Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, an American sannyasi living at the Parmarth Niketan ashram in Rishikesh, India. Sadhvi is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education, vocational training, upliftment, and empowerment programs to women and children. Sadhvi is also Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Director of the world-famous International Yoga Festival. Join the musings of an American sannyasi as Sadhvi shares the wisdom and teachings of her guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswatiji.
Welcome everyone to Inspiration and Transformation from the holy banks of the sacred Ganga River in the land of Rishikesh, India. Spirituality, as I always share when people ask any question about spirituality, what is it or this, is spirituality is not something very esoteric. What spirituality literally means, the word itself literally simply means pertaining to spirit, of the spirit. And so it's the opposite worldview of a material worldview. So a materialistic worldview says, this is who I am, this body. Me, I am about 5 feet, 3 inches, about 115, 120 pounds worth of matter. That's me. Been here for 46 years, wear orange. You know, this is me. That's the materialistic standpoint. The spiritual standpoint says, that's just my body. Who I am is spirit. And the reason that that's important is if I'm identifying as body as matter, well, then I'm seeing others as body and matter. And so if I'm over here at my height, my weight, my form, well, then we've got all this empty space over here. And then Dr. Tareji's over here with his height and his weight and his form. And then there's some space. And then Shreya's over there with her height and her weight and her form. And we're all just individual, separate, disconnected forms, objects, matter. Spirituality says, no. I'm spirit. Yeah, I have a form, but I am the spirit, I am the soul. I am love, I am consciousness, I am divine. Whatever name we want to use for it. Because the concept of spirituality, of course, transcends religion. So it doesn't matter what name we use for the spirit. But that's what I am, and that's what you are, and that's what she is. And because there's no place that spirit ends or begins, there's no place I end and you begin. No place you end and she begins. We're actually all connected. And the reason and the way that this ties in so much to the environment is, well, suddenly the people in the world around us, the animals in the world around us, the trees and the mountains and the rivers in the world around us are not objects for us to use for our pleasure. I mean, in the same way that we all intuitively understand that rape is wrong. Well, what is rape? Rape is the assumption that that form, that object, should be used by me, that I have the right to use that object for my own pleasure, that that object itself has no rights. It's an object. I'm an object who needs something. That's an object who's going to give it to me. And so I'm going to snatch it. I'm going to use it. It's the same mentality for which we cut down trees to graze cattle. It's the same mentality in which we divert water to grow crops that aren't meant to be there so I can have more money in my pocket. And I'm not saying this to minimize violent rape, but to expand our concept of abusing aspects of the creation, because we see them as objects for our pleasure. We see them as objects for our use, for whatever my end goal is, whether it's to satisfy a sensual pleasure, whether it's to put money in my pocket, whether it's to make my company number one, whatever my goal is. If I think that everything else in the world is just an object for me to use in the fulfillment of that goal, well, then that's where we end up abusing our environment, exploiting our environment. So spirituality says, no. We're spirit. And that same spirit runs through all of us. And so we're all connected. We're all one. We're in different forms, but we're all one. You could go down to Ganga with an infinite number of containers and fill her up and into all these containers, and she would take the different form of each container, but ultimately each container is just Ganga. You know, the other analogy is the sun's reflection in different containers. Well, it's the same sun in all of them. The reflection is a little different depending on the size, the shape, the color of the container, the amount of water in the container. But the sun is the same. And so when we recognize, well, the spirit is the same, we're actually all one. We're all waves of the same ocean. Well, then, if I'm not an object, well, then neither are you. And neither is that tree, and neither is that cow, and neither is that chicken, and neither is that poor child or woman who's working in a sweatshop so that I can have more for cheaper. It's all part of the same oneness. And so spirituality inevitably is going to lead us into a lifestyle that cares for the environment, because we understand it's part of us. And whether it's a tree, whether it's a river, whether it's an animal, whether it's a child in India or Bangladesh or Africa, or a woman working in a sweatshop, working in a cotton field that's full of pesticides so they have cancer, their kids have birth defects, to satisfy my desire to fill my emotional emptiness with things. But suddenly, they're all me. Suddenly, they're not objects. It's me and that tree. It's me and that river. It's me and that child. It's me and that woman. And that's what deep spirituality gives us. And so we benefit, of course, because science has shown that people who are spiritual and religious actually are healthier. I won't share the statistics with you now, but I have them should anyone be interested. So we benefit physically, emotionally, and the earth benefits. And all of those with whom we share it today and with whom we will hopefully share it in the future.
You're listening to OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Hi, this is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Every 2 minutes, another American is sexually assaulted. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, You are not alone. Help is just a call or click away through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Please call 1-800-656-HOPE, that's HOPE, or visit RAIN.org, that's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Welcome back to Inspiration and Transformation. I'm so glad to have you all back here with me. There's two camps of people, two groups of people with two different philosophies. One says that using everything, using all means possible, is the way to attain happiness. So going out dancing, going for parties, going to this place, going to that place, owning this, owning that. What you could call our more materialistic philosophy of life and happiness. The other philosophy says that we have to stay calm, to have this, to have the same state of mind in happiness and sorrow, unaffected by the external world. Which is correct? Okay, so should we do whatever we can find to make ourselves constantly happy? Whatever we can get our hands on. A party, dancing, being with friends, a pizza, a night out on the town, a new necklace, and whatever it is, vacation. Should we use any means possible to find happiness? Or should our philosophy of life be that whatever comes, happiness or sorrow, that our goal, rather than being happy, that our goal is to be calm? So are we looking to find happiness, or are we looking to stay calm? Interestingly, it's actually both. And the reason that it's both is that through finding this state of equanimity, we actually are able to attain real happiness. The first camp, the first group, this I'm going to just do whatever I can find that I can lay my hands on to make myself happy. The problem with that is the happiness is very shallow. A, it's short-lived, of course. But B, it's also very shallow. It's not even real and deep while it lasts. If it were real and deep and beautiful and fulfilling and just short-lived, well, okay. Sometimes a beautiful meditation is also short-lived. Sometimes an ecstatic experience is also short-lived. But they're very powerful. They can change your life. A touch, a moment, because of their power and depth. But the type of happiness that we get from this, any means possible, any item possible, any place possible, philosophy, the problem is it's short-lived and very shallow. The happiness that you get at a party, the happiness that you get just enjoying pizza, the happiness that you get going somewhere that you like, doesn't actually go very deep. It's not actually touching that which is yearning inside of us to be touched. It's not filling that which feels empty inside. And the reason we know that is, go on vacation. Families go on vacation all the time. Couples go on vacation all the time. And what happens? They fight. Interestingly, much more so than they fight not on vacation. Now, you could say, well, that's because they spend a lot more time together. Normally, kids are at school, parents are working, there's too much to do. But if the more time we have, the more we fight, it certainly doesn't seem that I've been touched and healed very deeply inside. It means I'm just as annoyed by the things that I'm annoyed at back home, and there's just more of them now because there's more time together. I'm just as depressed as I am about the things that I am back home. It's just I have more time. I'm not as busy. In psychology, they call this pulling a location. When you have people who are suffering from depression, from anxiety, from drug addictions, from all sorts of issues, many times we think, I'll just move to Tahiti. Then everything will be better. Then I won't be an alcoholic. Then I won't be depressed. Then I won't need drugs. Then I won't have this problem. And what you find is wherever you go, there you are. And that comes with you. So there's nothing we can do on a superficial level, no place we can stick our body, nothing we can do with our body, nothing we can adorn our bodies with, that's actually going to touch the place in us that's looking to be healed, the place in us that's not happy. Because if we're happy deep inside, then you're going to be happy pretty much wherever you are. I've had the incredible blessing to travel all over the world with Puja Swamiji, and what I see is obviously Ganga is his favorite. Obviously he loves coming back. His preference is to be on the banks of Ganga. But wherever you put him, including 24-hour-long flights, including airports for hours and hours with planes that are canceled and days of not sleeping, including being in a hospital, getting his arm sewn up, including, whatever situation he may be in. There's no sense of, I just have to get out of this situation and then I will be happy. Or I just have to change this situation and then I'll be happy. When our flight finally, for God's sakes, takes off, then I'll be happy. When I finally reach this place, then I'll be happy. Never. So when you actually have that inside, doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter what you're doing, you're happy. But for the rest of us who haven't attained that real permanent, unmoving, unvacillating, constant experience of happiness and peace, when we look for how to attain it, it's never going to come on the superficial level because the problems are not superficial. I can only use a superficial solution to fix a superficial problem. So if I go out in the rain and I get wet, I can fix that problem by putting on dry clothes. Problem is on the surface, solution is on the surface. If my stomach is empty, I can fix that by sticking food in it. Superficial problem, superficial solution. But if my heart is empty, I can't fix that by sticking food in my stomach. It's the wrong hole. If my clothes are wet because I've been crying, not because I was outside in the rain, then putting on a new pair of clothes isn't going to fix the problem. A hairdryer or a towel isn't going to fix the problem. Because the water's from within. It's not just that which happened to catch me as I walked across the street. And so in that first camp, we're trying to attain something deep through superficial measures. It's like sticking a Band-Aid on your stomach for a kidney stone, or sticking a Band-Aid on your stomach for a ruptured appendix. Well, it would be cute if you were 4. We'd all have a little smile if a child walked up to a parent whose appendix had ruptured and said, "Mom, Dad, I brought you a Band-Aid." It would be a cute moment. But if as adults, intelligent adults, we did it, people would look at you like you were nuts. You're crazy. Well, you can't stick a Band-Aid on your stomach and expect it to fix your appendix or fix your kidney. You've actually got to go inside. You actually have to go below the surface. We cut the skin. We go deeply in. Only then can you fix it. And so all this stuff on the surface is like sticking Band-Aids on the body when the problem is in the inner organs. It's not going to work. And so it's not even a valid philosophy. There are certainly lots of different philosophies of life, lots of different paths. But in order for something to even be worth debating, it has to at least have an impact. It has to be effective. Otherwise, it's not even a philosophy. If it doesn't work, if my philosophy of treating ruptured appendices is by sticking Band-Aids on them, you'd say that's not a philosophy, that's just stupid. You could have an Ayurvedic philosophy. You could have a homeopathic philosophy. You could have a surgical philosophy, because these are things that actually work. They work in different ways. We can each choose how I'm going to deal with my appendix. But we know that they're all actually valid philosophies. The Band-Aid on my stomach is not a valid philosophy. So in the same way with this question, the first option isn't even an option, because it doesn't actually even bring us the happiness that we're talking about. The philosophy of staying calm, this is what Bhagawan Krishna, Lord Krishna, emphasizes so much in the Bhagavad Gita, is to stay balanced. That a yogi is one who is the same in success and in failure, in joy and in sorrow, and in all of the ups and downs, the opposites of life. A yogi is not one who goes up and down on the waves. But that doesn't mean thou shalt not experience happiness, that you've chosen calmness over happiness. We only think that until we actually know what real happiness feels like when it comes with peace. We're so used to the drama of life that the idea of being calm feels like I'm sacrificing something. Yes, there are downs, but oh my God, the ups are so good. I don't want to lose that. And so we think that if I get calm, if I have more equanimity, I'm going to lose that joy. But that's actually not true. Because the real joy that I start to experience is one that comes from within. As I'm filling that which was empty inside me, I'm actually able to start experiencing real joy. And so in the state of peace, and it's important also to note here that this calmness that the questioner refers to, which I'm assuming comes after a reading of the Bhagavad Gita or listening to a teaching on that where that's emphasized so much, it's not indifference. Lord Krishna did not say a yogi is one who does not care. A yogi is one to whom nothing matters. What he says is a yogi is one who is the same. Meaning that the source of my joy doesn't come from the success or the failure. Who I am is the same. I'm not ecstatic in the success and suicidal in the failure. I am constant. Doesn't mean I can't be happy. In fact, that's actually the source of real joy. Pujya Swamiji always says enlightenment means living in the light. It's not just living at a flat line. You know, in a hospital, when it becomes flatline, you're dead. And that's not what Lord Krishna is talking about. It's the fact that who I am is not dependent on the stuff in the outer world. And you know this is true because when you see the really enlightened masters, they're joyful. It's not that in their state of equanimity they have become boring. I mean, I've heard people refer to Pujya Swamiji with a lot of adjectives over the last 2 decades, and not once have I ever heard anybody say he's boring, or anything even close. He's full of life, vibrancy. But that vibrancy can only come when who he is isn't dependent upon what's happening in the outer world. That's when you see them, the real enlightened masters. And again, it doesn't matter what religion. You can look at the mystical tradition, the sages, the prophets of every religion. The ones who weren't just teachers, but who really themselves were touched and able to touch others. They weren't indifferent and apathetic and boring. They didn't speak in a monotone. They're full of life, but full of real life, because they filled themselves from the inside. So through making our philosophy one of, I'm going to strive for equanimity. I'm going to strive for balance. It's literally just like saying, I'm going to strive to anchor myself, to anchor my boat to the deepest part of the ocean I can. Because the waves come, storms come, but I don't want to go up and down. I don't want to get tossed around. So my goal, instead of looking for the highest wave, my goal becomes to anchor myself as deeply as I can. The highest wave will come and go. But if you can anchor yourself deeply, then we're not tossed around. And when that becomes our goal, our focus, then we start to actually experience real highs from within us that aren't just due to the fact that we caught some high wave for a few minutes. But it actually becomes a much more constant state of high inside of us.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is Conscious Living for Your Soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation. How do we gain direction in life when we feel lost? How do we tune into our intuition and know that the voices we hear are pointing us in the right direction? Our intuition really is a sense. Science tells us we have 5 senses. Okay? So science tells us that the only way that we can really know the world is through that which we see, that which we hear, that which we smell, that which we touch, and that which we taste. But we actually have another sense, and that's our intuition. And it really is there. It's not something that some people have, some don't. It's not like some people can smell and some can't. Everyone has the intuition. But what we don't do is connect with it, and we don't really learn how to use it. And so, for example, when we're born, if you take a young child and you make a young child touch this and you say, what is this? Well, the child won't necessarily know. Or you say, what is this? Not going to know. Because they haven't had that type of experience to know, oh, this must be metal. It feels kind of like the cover of your cup. Or, oh, this is wood. Maybe that's a table. The child just hasn't had that experience. They can feel it, but they don't know what to make of it. And in the same way, our intuition is there. But if we haven't developed it, then we don't know what to make of it. We don't know what the voice means, what the calling means. So this is where it's so important to really cultivate the power of intuition and to understand it doesn't come just like another voice in your head. It really comes like a feeling. When it's hot out and you go stand outside and you hold your hand out and you can feel the sun's rays burning your hand, you never doubt, oh, maybe it's just my mind telling me it's hot. You can feel it. If you stand in Ganga, you're wet. You can feel it. You're wet. You're never going to doubt, oh, it's just my mind maybe telling me I'm wet. When you hear music, you know you're hearing music. Nobody's going to say, oh, maybe that's just my mind. We understand music is playing. So we trust those 5 senses because they're what we've become habituated to. We don't yet trust our intuition because we haven't become habituated to it. And this is where we have to develop a relationship with it, the same way that we have a relationship with our eyes and our ears and our tongue and our nose and our hands, so that we can learn to trust it. But we have to use it, and we have to listen to it. And then slowly we're able to really understand the difference between just the random voices in our head, the voices of judgment, the voices of criticism, the voices of fear, the voices of ego, and intuition, which isn't always a voice, actually. Many times it's a feeling. It may not always be verbal. Many times it's just literally a feeling inside about something. There are places we go that feel really right, places we go that don't feel right. People we're around that feel really right, people we're around that don't feel really right. Things we embark on that feel expansive to us. Things we embark on that feel contracting to us. So that's all intuition. But we have to just develop it the same way that we develop our sight, develop our smell, develop our hearing, develop our touch. And then it's what we really need to use to move through life, because actually it's the only thing we can trust. It's actually the only, when you're able to remove the, peel off the ego from it and peel off the fears and desires and peel off those other voices, the pure intuition is actually the only thing we can trust for us. Because no one outside has access to more information about us than our own intuition does. No one outside can give us better information about us and our choices and our life than our own intuition can. But the problem is usually our fears are stuck in there, our desires are stuck in there. What society says is stuck in there. So I may have an intuition, a pull to be a musician, or to be an artist, or to come live in an ashram, or to whatever. But the voice of society is, oh, no, that's wrong. You've got too good of an education. You shouldn't waste it. You've got to make something of yourself, as though, you were half-baked unless you made something of yourself. And therefore, you need to be the engineer, or be the doctor, or be the professional, or be this. And we don't even hear what our intuition is saying. And we learn to listen to the voices from outside so much more than from the voices inside. Or we do make decisions based on our intuition, and then our brain starts to second guess them. Shouldn't have done this, shouldn't have done that, oh my God, this, that. And that's all planning mind stuff. That's all jumpy monkey mind stuff. That's all, And it's not that stuff is harmful, it's good. It's good to know the culture you're in. It's good to have a connection with what's culturally appropriate. It's good to take advice of people you love and who love you. Sometimes they can give a different perspective. But our real compass, what Pujya Swamiji calls our GPS, really is inside. But we have to trust it. Pujya Swamiji always says, when you enter in anywhere you're going and you enter in an address on the GPS, after you enter the address, there's always one more step. And there's a button that says accept or start. It's never just you enter in the address and then sit back. There's always a button. The ones in the cars used to say accept. On the phones they say start. But you've got to push that button that says, okay, now guide me. And most of us just haven't actually pushed that button in our life. Like we've entered in an address, I want to go there or be this or experience that. But we haven't actually accepted the voice of our own intuition of how to get there. What's happiness going to look like for me? What's fulfillment going to look like for me? What's meaning in life going to look like for me? What's success going to look like for me? What's love going to look like for me? Not what does it look like on the TV serials I watch. Not what does it look like in my friends or my family. But what does it look like for me? What does fulfillment feel like for me? Not what is it for my brother. Not what is it what my parents have told me. But really, what is it for me? And our intuition actually knows that. It has the answers. But we just have to hit that final accept button and stop second guessing it. Stop allowing it to be pulled here and there by the ego, by fears, by how we've been indoctrinated. And really let it guide us.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation. How many selves are there? How many layers? How many layers are there? So there's really only one self. The rest you could all sum up as not self. The real self, the one self, is the soul. It's that which we've spoken about that's been created not just by the divine, but of the divine, that is whole and complete and perfect, that is infinite, that is divine, that is peace, that is joy, that's the source of all of that. That when we meditate deeply and we get deeply into the source of the self, that joy that we experience, that peace that we experience, that's not due to a chocolate ice cream cone, that's not due to a piece of pizza, that's not due to anything, but that's due only to the source within us. The problem, what happens is that we also have a body, okay? And in that body which we have, the body comes not only with arms and legs, but it comes with this mass that we call the brain. And that mass that we call the brain is made up of chemicals, of electrical signals, of energy, of frequencies. And when we listen to that, we fall under the illusion. Because see, the mind can only think about something. The mind is a tool that works by looking from outside onto something. So the mind can solve a math problem by looking at a math problem. The mind can look at you and say, wonderful, beautiful, handsome yogi man. Okay. The mind works by separation. But it does the same thing to us then. When it thinks about the self, it creates that same separation with the self. So it says to me, just as it looks at you and says, fair-skinned, sandy blonde hair, wearing glasses, slight goatee beard. It does the same thing to me. And it says, female, kind of long hair, medium stature. Well, that's not who I am. But the mind cannot actually understand who I am because who I am can only be understood in connection. Who I am can only be understood in oneness, in union. That's the yoga we were talking about. So the mind has to create a separation in order to look at, understand, describe anything. And so the mind gives me this illusion that I am what the mind sees from being separate. I am this body. The mind can look at my bank account and say I am this many numbers. The mind can look at my report card and say I am an A or I am a C or I am a failure. My mind can look at my relationships and say I am your friend or your mother or your sister or your daughter. But what the mind cannot do is look in on itself. It cannot do the oneness. And so all of that which we peel back is not self. It's all the stuff the mind can look at. The mind can say, it's like the neti meditation. The mind can say, I am not my sorry. Okay. Then the mind can say, I'm not my skin. I'm not my bones. I'm not my organs. And the way that the mind knows that is when I say my mind, well, I'm not the mind. My clothes, my skin, my bones, my organs. Okay, so it's not me. But we peel them back layer by layer, and eventually you run out of things that you're not. And this is when the mind becomes still. Not because stillness is the ultimate goal, but because in that stillness is where the truth comes. The minute that the mind stops doing what the mind does, which is separation, which is looking from the outside in. So the mind has to peel back all that it can look at, all that it can understand, all that it can describe. I'm not my anger, I'm not my depression, I'm not my father who was an alcoholic or my mother who was a drug addict. I'm not the one who got beaten by my older brother. I'm not those things because that was my body. All those skin cells have changed. Everything has regenerated. I don't even have one cell left that was there. So who am I? I'm also not my emotions because we know those are chemical, electrical patterns in the mind. I'm not my thoughts. If they're my thoughts and they come and go, it's not me. If I were my thought, who would I be in between thoughts? Who would think the next thought? If I ceased to exist in between every thought, well, who would be left to have the next one? So I'm not my thoughts. And then we get to the point of just sitting with who we are. So there's one self, and all the rest of it is all the stuff that we put on. There's a beautiful story that I'll end with of a Buddhist temple from Thailand or Cambodia, can't remember which, and for hundreds of years, the monks of the temple had been worshipping a clay Buddha. And one day, the monks of the temple are cleaning it. and they notice in a crack in the clay, something is shining from the inside. And they slowly start to clear it away. What is it that's shining? And the bigger the crack gets, the more it's shining from inside. And they realize, my God, there's gold inside our Buddha. And they slowly clear away the clay to discover inside the clay Buddha, there's actually a golden Buddha. And they found out that what had happened was that when the invaders had come, they were looting everything gold, stealing everything gold, melting down everything gold. And the monks of the temple of the golden Buddha didn't want their Buddha to be stolen and melted. And so they covered it with clay to protect it, because they knew the invaders wouldn't be interested in anything clay. And so the good news was that the Buddha survived. The bad news was that the monks didn't. And so there was no one left who knew this is a clay Buddha. And so that it was a golden Buddha. And so for hundreds of years, they'd been worshiping it as a clay Buddha. And the reason that I love that story is it's such a beautiful metaphor for how we live. Who we are at the core, the self, is gold. We cover it with that which is not self, the clay. Whether it's our physical bodies, whether it's our titles, whether it's our careers, whether it's our relationships, whether it's our histories and our identities. We keep backing on the clay. And then when we feel like, oh my God, I'm just clay, I'm nothing, we go out in search of gold. If I just could find some gold to stick on top of me, then I would be something. And you find that a lot of people on the yogic path, for example, are looking in some way to find that gold, to find something that I can now become, learn, do, that will make me gold. Well, no, that's not what yoga does. That's not what meditation does. That's not what spirituality does. It removes the clay. You already are gold. It's not about giving you another identity that, in addition to all the other false identities I had, now I'm a yoga teacher. It removes the clay so that you can actually see and live in the truth of who you are. And so how many layers are there? Anywhere between 1 and infinity. Because as you know, with a solid piece of clay, you could literally peel it off spoonful by spoonful for the rest of your life. Or you could take it off all at once. It's solid enough, the whole thing would come off together. You don't have to do clay layer by layer, but you could. And so that possibility and potential is open to us. We know we're covered with that which is not self. Do we want to do it spoonful by spoonful? Or do we want to try to just break free from it? And that's where grace comes in. It's really grace, and only grace, that enables that clay to just dissolve. As though you took the Buddha and stuck it in Ganga, and Ganga just dissolved all the clay, exactly. If you're really dirty and you've been working all day, somewhere where you're covered with dirt and mud and dust and grime, well, you'd say, well, how do I clean it? Well, if you were doing it with a little sponge, you might have to literally go layer by layer and part by part. Or you could just jump in Ganga. And it would all be removed. So keep going. But keep going with the awareness that it doesn't have to seem like an endless, bottomless journey. Because even right here in this moment, you actually have the ability to see the gold. And the beautiful thing is, the minute that that happens, the clay automatically dissipates. So it's not about yet another skill, yet another process that I have to do. It's about my awareness and my focus and my connection. So just live always as much as you can by looking inward and remembering it's gold. It's gold. It's gold. It's gold. And every time you think it's clay, no, it's gold. It's gold. It's gold. And allow that to just melt it. This brings to a close this hour of inspiration and transformation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to be together with you all each week. And I look forward to being together again next Thursday, same time, on OMTimes Radio.